Nicky, it's been 40 years since your first Cheltenham Festival winner. See you then in the 85 champion hurdle. Can you remember that day?
Yes, I can. It was a different world. It was a completely different place.
Yeah.
Festival was always, it was big, but it's now just quadruple big. You know, you didn't really dream of winning champion hurdles, but it was exciting, and it was the start of something that's been wonderful, and we've had 40 pretty amazing years of it, but with a lot of highs and plenty of lows. It's the only way it can be.
Yeah.
It's either very, very good or flipping awful.
Does a winner at the festival, Nicky, mean more to you now than it did 40 years ago?
Well, put it like this, when you get into something like last year, of course it does, yeah. We've just got to get the ball back into the right court this time. I think, like we've always said, you know, if you could, you'd settle for one every year, and I've always said that. But then you would, wouldn't you? And say, well, yeah, but I'll settle for one, but we all want more. Don't expect Willie to settle for one. Very nice if he did. Back up and go home after one.
And what would it mean, a 10th champion hurdle this year, if Constitution Hill was...
Well, it's nice looking back. It's quite a lot of champion hurdles that, you know, we've just been very, very lucky to have had a lot of very good 2-mile hurdlers. And lots of fantastic memories of some great horses.
That's great. Focusing on the Cheltenham contenders, we've seen Constitution Hill this morning looking as laid back as ever. He's looking to give you a 10th victory in the champion hurdle. That was a nice warm-up for him in the international hurdle last time out. You must have been pleased.
Yeah, no, because it wasn't the original plan. You know, he was really well. I think everybody having missed him for a year, the obvious thing to do was, okay, try and earn a few brownie points and bring him out by surprise.
Yeah, and he was so well received. I think everyone headed to Cheltenham that day to see him because he is such a superstar. It's looking like it could be a vintage renewal of this year's champion hurdle with the potential opposition. It's going to be good to see him back in the lineup, isn't it?
It will, but it is strong. There's a lot of potentials in there. 2 mares, Irish, another few of Willie's armies, State Man's, and obviously Lossiemouth and Gordon's mare, and plenty more. There'll be plenty of lining up, I would think. And as always, everybody's got their chances. They're all very good horses. So, yeah, it should be a pretty hot renewal, I'd say. One. Constitution. Yeah, good. They're here. You're going to do 2 anyway, aren't you? Okay. You had a canter yesterday. You did? Yeah, good.
And where you are now with him, you're happy that he's on track, all being well, and potentially a racecourse gallop or not, but obviously it won't be a public gallop.
Nico will probably have a sit on him. He's very good at, you know, Matty rides him every day. They know him well. Nico knows him really well, and you know he would want to go and do a strong bit of work. Nico's reaction after the Unibet was, "Get on with him.
Yeah.
He's too fresh." It's probably the way he wants to be, actually, but he'd certainly be better. I mean, I'm not saying underdone, but you wouldn't want to overdo him, which I don't say he takes it all very well because he's got so much ability that the work really is pretty easy for him. You know, the good horses probably need more work because they are finding it much easier than a less talented horse. He'd have to work an awful lot harder than the good horses have to work, only because they've got to keep... Good horses help bring others with them.
And over the last 12 months, it's been very turbulent for Constitution Hill. So what would the victory mean to you and everyone involved with him?
Last year was just a disaster for him and us, obviously, it goes without saying. And Michael in particular, I think, you know, because he's been so good. And he had to sit through all the calls I'm having to make saying, this has gone wrong, that's gone wrong. It wasn't as if one thing was on top of us all the time. It was just circumstances just went wrong, wrong, and wrong. Fighting Fifth was abandoned. He was up there, ready to run. That got abandoned. He couldn't go there. The Christmas hurdle, he wins. So far the season's gone, we're fine. And then all of a sudden, we were thinking about the Unibet hurdle last year, and his scope wasn't quite as it should have been. That's an everyday occurrence, but didn't want to run him and wasn't that fussed, to be honest with you. Rather like this year, I was thinking going straight to Cheltenham anyway. Then everything came in. There was that infamous gallop at Kempton, which did go badly wrong. I mean, in a funny way, that was good because it told us what we were in trouble. He had to miss Cheltenham due to that. We were ready to come back to where we were going, Aintree, and then he got colic. And as you know, any horse can get colic. Horse, pony, shire, horses get colic. And it's like Sir Gino, it always happens to the good ones at the wrong moment.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing him line up this year, so fingers crossed from now until Champion Hurdle Day, he does the job for you. Jonbon was another one that we got the pleasure of seeing this morning. He was really impressive in the Clarence House last time out. He's got the most incredible race record and consistency. And do you feel that he gets the recognition that he ultimately deserves?
I think they have done this year for the first time, although he's been there for some time. We're on 8 or 9 Grade 1s, I think. It's a pretty amazing record.
Yeah.
At Ascot and the Schlur, they were very, it was as if the crowd have finally said hello, Jonbon. And he's lovely because he's such a character. He's just, you'd love him. He is the complete polar opposite to Constitution Hill. He's a fuss, a fidget, but he loves it. He absolutely loves it. He gets himself a bit boiled up because he's anticipating it. That's just all in his makeup. He's so much better than he was. He used to be testing. Now he's entertaining. And we know how to control his enthusiasm until the right moment.
Yeah.
And as long as he's fit, fresh and well, then he'll perform. He's very, very good.
The other horse I wanted to ask you about, Lulamba, who was obviously a real talking horse ahead of his first run for you from coming up from
I never
France.
quite know why. He'd had one run in France. He hadn't been, silly stories and rumours and things come out. There was one with Jonbon. Apparently he left Jonbon standing still. The only thing I can promise you, he's never ever worked with Jonbon. The stories get made up. I mean, for all I know, he was passing a tree, but it's bizarre.
Yeah.
And the hype doesn't come from within here. It seems to gather somewhere else as if we're hiding something.
Yeah.
No, it's entertaining listening to some of the stupidity of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. He's heading to the Triumph. Where do you feel he kind of ranks among your 7 previous Triumph hurdle winners that you've been successful with?
He's a very solid, he wouldn't be as flashy as Sir Gino was at this time of last year. He was brilliance everywhere. This is a very solid horse. Does his work. Happy horse, I'd say. Always looks as if he's got a smile on his face. Yeah. You have to love him. He's going to be a better horse in a year's time.
And looking at Palladium, hype around him because of his price tag, but were you happy with how he ran for you and him being on schedule to head to Cheltenham still as well?
Yeah. No, I mean, we were delighted with him at Huntington. You said the price tag, it's a funny thing, isn't it? You go back to the years, Jonbon was rather an expensive horse. And for 2 years, these first 2 years, very, very expensive Jonbon, the Jonbon that cost all this money and this, that and the other, everywhere he went. You don't read about that anymore. He's doubled his money. He's into profit margins.
Yeah.
Do you mean? Nobody talks about his price anymore. It's irrelevant. He doesn't know what he cost, and I don't either, really.
I'm sure.
He's just a lovely horse. He's a colt with a great temperament, stacks of ability, and very straightforward. Loves his jumping.
Lucky Place wanted a line on your Stayers hurdle horse going up in trip. Are you hoping that more improvement will come from that?
I don't know if improvement will, but we sort of resisted the temptation to run him on trials day in the 3-mile hurdle. But watch with interest is because the horse of Nigel's that was second to him.
Gow Road.
Yeah. And we were giving it £6, I think. And we beat that nicely. And that wins. So I think the form looks pretty good. The temptation was to run there and see if he stayed 3 miles. But I just wasn't sure he really needed a hard race over 3 miles at that time. Which case, look, let's just go and find out in the Stayers Hurdle.
What would the ideal conditions be for him?
I don't think he minds. He's a very, very straightforward person.
Yeah.
Very likeable, great, uncomplicated, straightforward, I love him. He makes our life very easy.
Yeah, love those ones. Django Bay, will you be going up in trip, coming down? Obviously, that was a good performance in the Scilly Isles.
Gut feeling at the moment is to come back down. Influenced, I'm sure, by the fact that we haven't got Sir Gino. I think while he was hanging around, there was little point in doing that, and was almost certainly going to go up. I'd say his optimum is 2.5, but need to say, this is the year they've taken the 2.5 mile novice chase out of the programme for Cheltenham this year. Typical, when I've got the perfect answer to it, the race has been removed. So it's 2, 3 or nothing. And at the moment, we're probably leaning to coming back down to 2 and have a crack at the Arkle.